I appreciate you all being here. I would like to just go over a few housekeeping things. If you need to know where the restrooms are, that is always number one. Restrooms are out the doors and immediately to your left, they're across the hall. That's where the restrooms are. When we get to public input part of this session, we ask that you keep your statements about how the funds could be used to 2 minutes. We have a beautiful full room this evening. We want to be respectful of everyone's time and make sure that everyone is heard. If you have additional comments or information you would like to share with the ARPA input session panel, just write it down. I have some forms up here. We'll make sure that that information gets submitted to the official ARPA input session survey form. Are there any questions about housekeeping rules or what we just discussed? At this time, I would also like to introduce our panelists first, starting with our Honorable Mayor Sheldon Daly. We have the Chief Financial Officer, Rob Whitaker, and our Ernst & Young representative, Brian. I'm just going to say Brian J. because he knows why I don't say his last name. He can pronounce it for you. He is Brian from Ernst & Young. Any questions? Can everyone see the screen okay? And I know we are live right now with Facebook, so I want to make sure also our Facebook audience can hear okay. Anyone have any issues on the live? Anyone saying they can't hear? Woo, way better than last week. Okay, we will get started. Once the presentation is over, it will take maybe 20, 25 minutes. Then we will go to public input. I will walk around like Oprah, and I will have the microphone, and will allow you all to give your input on how this fund should be spent in the Flint community. Thank you all.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Can everybody hear me well? Great. I want to just take the opportunity to, thank you guys for coming out today. It's another great day God has made. I want to thank the Sylvester Bloom Empowerment Center for allowing us to use this space for this community engagement, for this very important information that we're going to get out. But also, I want to thank the council person of this district, 3rd Ward City Council Person Quincy Murphy, and also partnering with us today is the 2nd Ward Councilwoman Nadale Lewis, and I'm going to just let them do a real quick welcome, just telling you hello.
Thank you. Welcome, everyone. I was looking up under my chair. She said she gonna walk around like Oprah Winfrey. I was looking for my key up in there. But, thank you guys for coming out tonight, and I look forward to this session.
Good evening, everyone. So happy to see all of you here, because you being here means that you are concerned and you have a stake in what's going on in the city of Flint. And that's very important. So let's go ahead and learn a lot, give us some input so we can move this city forward together. Thank you.
Thank our council people for that. I have a short but very impactful piece that I have to deliver today. It's talking about Flint's guiding principles around these opera dollars. Transformational dollars. One-time dollars, transformational, $1.9 trillion released throughout our country for the recovery of cities, states, villages, townships, and municipalities like ours. But we developed these guiding principles from some things that we've gleaned before, and if you can look behind the screen there, we look at the first guiding principle. This is very important. Equality. A recovery plan that should reflect those voices of all residents and to seek to reduce racial and other disparities. That is a priority that we have. Responsibility. American Rescue Plan funding is a temporary. Our investment should lay out the foundation for lasting change, but not create future financial burdens. Sustainability. Our plan should combat environmental injustices, not malignant long-term effects of climate change. Compliance. We must ensure that every dollar is spent on eligible activities and is accounted for appropriately. And I'm having trouble, Melissa, with these. Can you help me? Transformation. The project should, I need glasses, right? The project we fund should produce outcomes that make measurable differences in people's lives. We will focus on the dollars on long-term impact. Transparency. We pledge to make these decisions openly, inform residents on how money is to be spent. Delivering results. Leveraging. Our plan should prioritize investments that collaborate with other funding streams, helping guide generate new revenues or cost savings, and recycle dollars to multiply their impacts. I should have just looked back there. Why didn't nobody just point back behind me? All right, with that, we want to introduce our CFO, Rob Whitaker. He's going to talk about some of these things, and let's give him our focus, and let's give him a round of applause.
All right, good afternoon. Can you hear me?
I turned it off.
We're meeting already?
Yep. Oh, sorry.
All right, good afternoon. So we're going to go over just a quick timeline of how we got here today. So back in April of 2021, the city put out a survey, online survey for the public to start gauging early interest to how these dollars should be spent. May of 2021, the city received its first payment of Arpa funds, and that was, I put 2 4s in there. I wish it was 447 million, but 47.3 million was the first payment. The second half will come a year after that, so May of 2022. In August of 2021, we started doing 9 ward tours to just kind of gauge your initial input, public input on the Arpa funds. In January 2022, the City Council approved the contract with Ernst & Young here. February 2022, this month, the Council passed premium pay. Resolution was adopted. And also this month, we went on and updated and refreshed our online survey. That can be found right on our city's main page, www.cityofflint.com, and you'll see on the right side of the page, it says survey. And then also this month, we started our second round, like tonight, of public input sessions. No, you're good. This is easy for me. So this will be kind of a quick overview. There's larger prints up here of the so far funding priorities. So the key thing here is this is just a draft plan. It's a draft living document. This was created after the initial public input from surveys and ward tours that I had mentioned. This was also taken from reviewing the city's master plan and capital improvement plan. So those documents the city has to adopt, go through many public inputs to adopt those documents. So we took some ideas from there. And then also just from reading the guidelines from U.S. Treasury, which you can read here, 437 pages. And so these funding priorities are not limited to these categories. We're here, that's the whole point. We're here tonight to gather input from you to see if we missed anything, and then later we will refresh those. One thing, not to bore everyone with budgets, but one thing I should always point out is that we're talking about $94 million here from the feds. The key thing is those funds can only be used in very specific uses, right? Like infrastructure, broadband, public health, all outlined in the guidelines from U.S. Treasury. They cannot be used to pay off like the city's pension obligation or just put into the city's general fund to fix the deficit that you'll probably hear us talk about as we go through the budget season. So there's 2 different funds of money. We got the city general fund to operate day-to-day, expenses and public services of the city, and then there's these dollars. But in the rules, they're very clear. You can't just fix your budget hole, if that makes sense. Last thing on this slide is the funds available for use must be obligated by December 31st of 2024. So we must, identify what they're going to be used for, and then expended by December 31st of 2026. So what's next? You're going to see the slide again, just because it's really important that we get that out there and what the next steps are. So we're going to complete all the input sessions. There's these input sessions, council input sessions. So all those will be completed. We then like to do, process all the input we're receiving through the surveys, through these sessions, through the old sessions. Conduct a joint public review session with council to kind of go over what they heard, what we heard, what we're seeing online. Finalize and present the recovery plan and budget, so update this if there's any changes through our input sessions. We'll then announce a notice of grant funding opportunities, what the eligibility is to apply for the grants, and obviously application instructions on how to apply for the funds. And then after that, start to initiate the projects. And then key is to monitor these projects and publicly report on the progress and how these dollars are being spent. I'm now going to hand it over to Brian from Ernst & Young to talk about the guidelines.
Thanks, Rob. Hi, everybody. My name is Brian Jarzinski. I'm with EY. As Rob and the mayor spoke on earlier, we've been working with the city now for around a month in terms of beginning to help with the planning and the use of the funds. One thing I want to point out with the ARPA funds is, compared to the funds that we had received previously under the CARES dollars and so forth, these funds come with a little different hook to them. These are federal funds, which means that every dollar that's spent needs to be spent appropriate and in the same conditions with these 437 pages of rules, and there's another 150 pages about compliance and all kinds of stuff. That's part of what we're trying to do with the city. But more importantly, to go through, you can't hear me? Okay. How about if I do this? So more importantly, when you're dealing with these federal funds, there's a lot of what they call streamlined rules, but there are rules that are very specific. So the reason they're streamlined is because they give you the path for how you have to spend the dollars. At the same time, there's many regulations and many things that are relevant in terms of how you go about spending those dollars. Who's using the dollars? What are the services they're providing? Can you account for all of the dollars? Those types of things. And what's unique about this funding, even more so than typical federal grants, is there are task forces set up to look at the funding and monitor the use of the funds and so forth. So quite honestly, these funds, while really scheduled to last for 5 years, likely have a longer time that they'll be under audit, if you will. A couple other things to talk about with regard to ARPA. So we're talking about $94 million here today. That's what the City of Flint received. And it's been received, half of it has been received in May of last year, and another 50%, the other half will be received in the May of 2022. Beyond that, there are funds that the County of Genesee has received as well. Those are American Rescue Plan Act funds. They have the same type of ability to spend these funds as well. And the state of Michigan received over $1 billion of what's considered to be ARPA funds. So there are many funding sources available to us. Another thing that came along with the American Rescue Plan Act and with some of the other acts that government has undertaken, and this is part of what we're going to do as we're going through the process of prioritizing projects, identifying the appropriate use of funds, is there's infrastructure dollars available through other agencies. There are housing assistance programs that are being handled by different federal agencies and so forth. So some of the projects that may in fact be brought forward from an input perspective may not necessarily use ARPA funds, may not qualify for ARPA, but part of our responsibility is to go out and find out, are there dollars available for that? And so we're working with the mayor, we're going to work with city council as well as we go through this exercise. Our role as one of the advisors to the process is to ensure that there's compliance with the spending of these dollars, to ensure that when decisions are made on spending, that the contracting that's associated with that, the dollars that are spent are accounted for, and can be recreated when they are audited. So there are no questions around the transparency of the spending. Our role as well is to make sure that when programs and projects are brought forward, that we go through the process of giving them the appropriate diligence to whether or not we can actually complete them. There are requirements around these programs for performance indicators. So if an example would be if you put in place a workforce training program or something over the next few years, those types of things get measured by the U.S. Treasury. They want to know how they perform. They want to see how these things perform to make sure that the dollars were spent effectively. So all of these things are part of what we'll be doing in working with the city and city council going forward. So let's talk about ARPA from a foundational perspective. What is it really designed for? There's really 4 key components to what ARPA undertakes and what it talks about. And if you think about what the spirit of the American Rescue Plan Act is, it's really about recovery from the pandemic. That's what the baseline of what these dollars were brought forward for. Certainly many of the dollars can go toward the public health emergency itself, and I'll give you some examples in a few minutes. Also the negative economic impact of the pandemic. And with a city like Flint and so forth, this would go back to things that creation of unemployment, perhaps lost small business activity, things like that. Housing problems, all those types of things are considered the negative economic impact from the pandemic. In addition, the dollars can be used for premium pay to eligible workers. City Council has already approved a resolution that the mayor proposed on certain first-line responders and so forth. So those are the types of costs that, as well, the federal government identified as a good use of the funds. And then there's a bucket called the provision of government services. So this is for services that perhaps fell off as a result of the pandemic. Let's say tax revenues came down, which they have in a city like Flint, across the state, in fact. This allows the government to use these dollars to bring back some of those services, hire more government employees, those types of activities. We'll talk more about that later. And then lastly, there's this bucket that's called infrastructure. It's somewhat specific in terms of what the American Rescue Plan Act can allow you to do. It's around providing clean water, providing improved sewage, and also expanding broadband in communities. The one thing I'll say about this last topic here is there are many other sources of funding available for those types of activities. The Environmental Protection Agency has funds. There are funds that are set out. There's a federal broadband program. So while there are categories that are eligible under ARPA, again, there may be other places for us to look for that type of funding. So those are really the highlights, the foundational highlights of what the rescue plan is about. Next, I'm going to walk you through and give you some examples of the types of categories that the spending can be used for. And of course, after we're done with this, if there's questions, feel free just to give you a few examples. I talked a little bit about public health. What are the types of things that fall into that category? These things would be very much about youth intervention programs, police type engagements around gun violence and things like that. Very much a big part of this. There's also traditional pandemic-related health issues that can be dealt with here, setting up a vaccination center, education on healthcare, those types of things. Implementing upgraded health facilities, those types of costs, all eligible under this category. I talked a little bit about negative economic impacts. This would be assistance to small businesses. Emergency housing assistance type programs would be eligible under this category. Child care, getting people back to the workforce by providing support for child care, those types of programs fall under this bucket. Services to disproportionately impacted communities, because they want to make it simple for us. This is for communities that have been highly hit by the pandemic. So this would be high unemployment type communities, but also directed towards low to middle income communities. And there's an expansive category of services that can be used within this. So a couple examples of that: blight elimination, putting in more green spaces, those types of things to give access to folks to cleaner environments, cleaned up environments, those types of things. Some of the things that can qualify under here very basically are, demoing, cleaning up land, building up new houses, those types of things. We talked about premium pay already. The category itself allows for more than just first responders. There are some rules around that, but there is eligibility for other workers to receive premium pay. I already talked about water, sewer, and broadband. One category I want to touch on is this public sector revenue loss. Rob talked earlier about the fact that you can't go back and pay pension plans and fill holes in your budget and so forth. But to the extent that you have tax revenues that you've lost, and certainly the city has, and you expect to lose those over a period of time, you can use some of these funds to replace those government services that were lost as a result because you can't operate at a deficit. It gives us greater flexibility in terms of which programs can be utilized under this, for example. So there's a little bit more leniency, and also, not that everybody in here necessarily wants to worry about this, it also has a little less in the reporting side of things. Still has to be compliant as you spend the dollars, but we don't have to do as much reporting with that. And then lastly, as we go through the application process and as people go through the process of taking on programs and putting in projects, there's an administrative cost associated with that. Because again, you have to follow certain procurement rules, you have to go through and record and document everything you've done. There's an allowance for those types of expenses. So that's really a pretty decent summary. There are plenty of examples. Within each of these categories, within these 7 categories, there are 66 expenditure categories. So certain programs qualify under certain categories. Each one has unique reporting characteristics and those types of things. We won't get into all that detail today. Just wanted to give you a flavor for the types of programs. What's important for us, in our role too, is to get the input from the city. There's already been some inputs that have been brought forward. We've seen some of those. These meetings are very important for us to take the input. Our role is to help the city and city council evaluate all of the inputs and then begin a prioritization process, which Rob talked about. Come back to the community and say, these are the priorities that are going to be undertaken, and then we will assist the city with going through that process of expending the funds and doing it in a transparent and compliant manner. Who do I hand off to next? Okay. Well, we just wanted to have this up here at the end. One thing I wanted to touch on, if I can go back, just quickly, is these guiding principles that the mayor went over when we first started are very important. And as you think about the inputs that the community is going to put together, think about it from this aspect as well, as you're thinking about the programs you're looking to as well. Some of the things that are very important to us are the ability for these programs to continue and last past the use of these funds, because these are one-time funds. So when we talk about sustainability here, it talks about environmental injustice and so forth. When I think about sustainability, it's about a program that will last after these funds are gone. So when you're thinking about those things, in the future, will there be other sources that can take that? Will the program develop a different revenue base so that it can work on its own once this funding is gone? Those types of things are very important for us. Leverage is also very important. These investments, and I will say this to all of you, as you're thinking about the programs that you have interest in from an input perspective, how can I utilize other services? How can I partner with others to bring the most out of what I'm bringing forward from a program perspective? So these guiding principles are very much part of what we will be bringing to City Council and the city in terms of how we hear the inputs and do they meet these guiding principles as the city moves forward. Next step. Now I think I turned it to Melissa. Oh, do we need to go back? Well, he already went through this.
Yep, we could just put on the next step slide and just leave it there.
Yep.
Just mood slides. So we are at the input part. Again, we ask that you keep your suggestions on how the funds should be spent to 2 minutes. We have a full house, and this is amazing. We want to make sure that we get to everyone. I do have a little timer on my phone. I don't want to be disrespectful with my timer, but it is a timer and I don't control it. It just go off at 2 minutes. So that's going to happen. So do we have anyone who has a comment? You can just raise your hand and again, I'll come by.
I'll need your timer because I'm a slow speaker. Hi guys. Listening to the presentation makes me believe that, listening to the presentation, I realize that it's not, it feels like this money is not there for people to start like getting down to work immediately. It feels like the process of you deciding on what it should go to is longer. That's my opinion. But I also think Flint as a city already knows what problems they have. And like those should be priority. And like blight, for example, like I live on Milburn Ave, and there is like so many empty houses and all that stuff. And so we know that if we had some of those things dealt with, we may not even need the money for these other things, like things would begin to fall in place. So what I'm trying to say is, sometimes I get nervous. Anyway, like what I'm trying to say is we already know the main stuff. Before we get into all this, I know we need this, but let's concentrate on what the biggest problems are, like the crime and all that. But the crime also is happening constantly because people know it can happen and maybe nothing will. There's no results. And yeah, and then this man here came with his own request, like if we could have playgrounds or green areas for people of his age or kids around, that would be awesome. That's all we need.
For 2 seconds to spare. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Dorothy King. I'm on the north end of Flint, right around the corner from here. And the priorities that I feel, can you hear me all right? 'Cause I got a big mouth. The priorities that I feel that are significant for Flint right now is downtown. I know the north end needs a lot of help too, but I'm a firm believer that if we clean up downtown, it'll dwindle back this way. I'm so sick of these bricks that we call back to the pretty bricks, and they're ugly. They need to go. It's embarrassing. We have people that come from all over the world to our beautiful city, back to the bricks, bikes on the bricks, and the cram race. People are hurting themselves on those bricks down there. Please, Flint, let's think about getting those bricks. Do something, smooth it out, do something better than what we're doing down there. And downtown Flint is beautiful, it is. But we need to do a little bit better with those bricks tearing up my tires on my car. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other?
Yes, ma'am. Can't wait to do it. And most of these people know what the problem is in Flint. The thing is, they don't know how to do it. We can tell them, but they won't do it. See something, say something. You see something, say something, you get in trouble. That's why people don't do it. The mayor knows. All these people knows, and they know where the money comes from. Get the land bank in line and tell them they got to be a boss somewhere. But we can't find out who it is. To say, you got to do this. Why do we have a mayor or a governor? Somebody to govern us and tell us what to do? We already know what to do. Get it done. Don't sit and talk about it like this. You, mister, you're responsible. Get it done. You should have went with the rest of them down there in the water emergency and be charged. Because that's the thing. And when your snow plows run the streets, have them put their plows down when they sprinkling about 2 pounds of salt down. They run through my area, don't even let the plows down there. Go to each corner and drop a little dab of this and that. And then when they go to the east side and the white areas, they got them little red trucks that come to steal your stuff and tell you can't have this in your driveway. They're doing snowplow on the east side. In our neighborhood, we kept ice, and we still got ice. But you get it done elsewhere. And you guys, if you're smart, you know what it is. Get land bank in line. Hear something, say something, because there's been a lot of things reported. Nobody done anything about it. And Julie Lopez know all about it. You can't get nothing done because nobody backs it up. I've called you 2 or 3 times. It took 3 or 4 months for me to get a call back. but nothing's been done about what I said. So you see, we're tired of it. We're tired of you and the rest of them people. Where's Eric Mays tonight? He's just one of the smartest. I thought you were too. I voted for you, but you gotta go.
Thank you very much. I just want to remind everyone that if you do have any infrastructure issues or concerns, if something happens with snow plow or things or other services with the City of Flint, you're welcome to contact the city and we can direct you to the right location. If you would like to stay after you do have concerns that relate to snow plow or anywhere else, come see me after this info session and I'll make sure to connect you with the right emails and contact information to get your concerns handled. Is that okay? Okay. No, he was pointing to. Did you have your hand?
Good evening, everyone. I've been to several of these information sessions, and we're hearing the same thing, so I don't know how many times it has to be said, what needs to be done in the city of Flint. But I heard some dates, and not dates, but some years that was put out there, I think 2023 and 2026 for the disbursement. Can somebody elaborate on what that actually really means? Because we're going to be meeting forever, seems though. And then I heard someone go back to the other city plan, which happened about 10 years ago, and reference that. Can somebody speak on that too?
So the years are just outlined in the rules. They're just saying you can't, essentially what they're for is to make sure that cities don't get these dollars and sit on them for 10, 20, 30 years. So we just have to, by 2024, December of 2024, make sure that the dollars are set towards the programs you're going to spend them on. And then by December of 2026, they have to be spent and out the door. So it's really just the U.S. Treasury, U.S. government saying, you can't just take these dollars and sit on them for 20 years. And then, okay.
Yeah, the expectation from Treasury is effectively that for most of the programs, they would be spent by December 31 of 2024. The allowance up to 2026 is really for longer-term things like construction projects and things like that. At the end of December of 2024, you have to have obligated the money, meaning you have a contractual commitment to spend it. And so that's a critical date, but it does allow for the expenditures to actually happen a bit later for some of the longer-term programs.
And then there was the part two. I just mentioned the master plan because that's a document that was developed with input from the public. So we took some ideas from there, but most of the ideas that you see on these funding categories came from initial public input and what's allowable in here. So the purpose of these meetings is just to make sure we didn't miss anything up here on these buckets.
Did that answer your question? Okay.
Okay, it sounds like at each meeting, everybody's saying the same thing. At what point do a decision get made based on, at the end of these meetings, I've been hearing the same thing, blight, crime, infrastructure, water. So at what point after these meetings, how long would that take for y'all to make a decision to get started on the plan?
Timeline, Rob, timeline.
Got it. So we're looking at, finishing up these meetings. So say that's likely to take about 30 days to finalize all public input sessions between councils and ours, like this one tonight. And then approximately 15 days after that will take to review all the input we're getting from all the input sessions and the surveys. And then approximately 30 days to finalize these funding priorities and have another meeting with the public and get this publicized. So you're, 75, 90 days to where, so we should commence funding after the application process, the funding process, beginning of May of 2022 this year.
Good evening. I want to say just a few things, but I thank you for giving us the time to give our input. But I just want to say where I'm coming from. I have lived here 68 years, and I have seen the negative stuff. Flint is a great place. I just want to say that down there on Martin Luther King Street, there's about 8 senior citizens, and I'm one of them. We're working very hard to clean up that area and honor Martin Luther King Street. If you notice the Peace Garden, we worked 5 years trying to just get things done through Land Bank. There has been so many hoops we had to jump through. We can't do this, we can't do that. We can't even put things in the ground without having this, and this. It almost, makes you want to say, well, what am I working for? So I want to cut some of the red tape or get people who know what they're talking about to refer us to people so that we can get the job done. We're not getting paid. We're working so hard out there looking at those buildings, trying to find out what businesses can come in. We put the murals up. That has brought so much traffic and has made national news. One thing I'll tell you happened, and I can tell you 500 stories since I've been working there 5 years. I retired from the Flint Board of Education. We went up and cleaned up that Peace Garden Park. Consumer Power came in, chopped all the trees down, and you know what she told me? I asked her, I said, what can y'all do to help? We're cleaning it up. It's unsafe. You left the sticks out there, you left these big branches out there. She said, well, we don't own the trees. I don't own the trees either, but it's unsafe that you leave it there. I said, if you would even drag them out to the curb, we would clean them and break them down. So I'm working with the CEO at Consumer Powers. I have met, and some of my people have met with the mayor to find out, to refer us how we can get that whole corridor cleaned up so that we honor Dr. Martin Luther King. But every time there's a roadblock or somebody doesn't know what to do. And I understand the pandemic, because we sit outside and have our meetings, and we're working and cleaning. We just want some help, because we're getting old, and we're trying to teach our kids to take over. So when you look at that area and drive up and down Martin Luther King Street, you don't see as much trash as you used to. We're trying to fight now to get some banners put on the pole. We've been fighting for 3 years to put the Martin Luther King quotes up. We're jumping through hoops, and I understand the safety of it. But we still need the city to give us a little bit more guidance to put our banners up. We got the money. We got U of M saying, we got Applewood saying they're helping us. They'll put it up. But the city stops us.
All right. I appreciate it.
Thank you, thank you.
There it is. Man, you put some power in this. I'm tired. Thank you. And again, if you do have extended concerns or input, we would like to get your name and information so that we can make sure everything is captured properly. And as a reminder, the updated ARPA input survey is on the City of Flint's homepage, www.cityofflint.com. The updated survey is there. If you are unable to use the survey online, we do have hard copies available for you tonight.
I wanted to respond to you about the Martin Luther King stuff. We just got elected in November. That situation with Martin Luther King with the banners came to me probably 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago. As soon as that came to me, we got on it. So I just want to make sure that we share space when we making those kind of comments out publicly, because I'm sitting here and I'm listening to it, and me and Councilman Lewis and the mayor, we got on it, and we did what we could. Because we just need our letter of support, and we're doing everything we can to support you. And we ain't talking about the old councilman, we're talking about a new council. And we hitting the ground running. So please, give us some respect too. We helping and working, and when I was just sitting here listening, I just could not respond. And you know, you my girl, I got number love for you, and I'm gonna do what I can. And if you ever feel like we not working with you, you can pick up the phone and call me, and I'm letting you know that right now. I don't want to come in on meeting here that we ain't helping you. Thank you.
Thank you. We are at, again, time check, 6:45. Do know, at 7:20, I'm going to let the last, but I'm going to hold the mic, take the mic, for everyone's time. Does this mic keep going out?
Melissa, you want this one? Melissa, take this one, sit this one better.
Thank you.
How you doing this evening, everyone? I have numerous Okay, I have numerous questions because I just came in the latter part. But first of all, you know, for people back here can't see any of that unless they got glasses like I have on. I don't know why there's, number one, not no literature to provide for everyone to see what's going on in this actual meeting this evening. We need literature so we can go back home, look over the literature, what was presented to us this evening. All right? There's no literature. Number one. In any other business, when they have meetings, they have literature. All right? We need that. Mayor Neely, please provide that, because this is like nothing. All right? This reminds me of the master plan they had in Mox several years ago. All right? Where dollars was in the city, and they had us come to make our decision, you know, get our feedback. And when they got our feedback, they already had plans for what they're going to do with the money. None of our feedback was allocated. Not one. All right? Now, you're in the seat. You're in that position. You said our water rates was going to go down. Nothing happened. I'm still paying an enormous amount of money for water that I can't even use. Okay? So, number one, you promised that to us in your period of going for being a mayor. You promised that you were going to cut our rates back down. Nothing has happened. So that was not fulfilled, and we holding that to you. All right? We need to know how we're going to do this money. Is this money for Flint, or is it for Genesee County? Is it for Flint or Genesee County? Because if it's for Genesee County, we don't need to be here. We don't need to be here. Because we know where the dollars will go from that point. Okay? That's the next question that need to be asked. Is the dollars for Flint only? All right? We need to vote on these dollars. If there's no vote, the dollars should go back to the government. All right? We need an opportunity to vote. We don't need people to make decisions like that. All right? So voting, we need to vote. And we need, regarding these trees out here, these trees are dangerous.
Thank you for your comment. Again, I ask that everyone stick to the statements and comments related to how the money should be spent. And I want to make sure that we get everyone in. I have a lot of hands raised over here. Steve, Mike, I apologize. I don't know what's going on. I tap them to work and then they like do something. Okay, I said, you got to be voice. You heard you.
I can try without it, or I can just get coach to do it for me.
Can you hear it? Testing.
They're too far away. They have to come close.
Oh, it's being far away. That's too far away.
Does that one work?
All right, my name's Winston. I'm a backup here. My name's Winston Studi. I'm the executive director of Gear Up to Lead. We're an alternative school program for middle school and high school students here in Flint. We are based right here at Semester Building Commons. We served over 300 families here. We have over 100 graduates in our 6 years. We have 4 programs. We have Gear Up to Grow at the 6th through 8th grade project-based learning program that runs upstairs. We have Gear Up Academy at the high school, based mostly online learning. And then we have a new program called the School that Works. What I want to talk about is the 4,000 16 to 21-year-olds that have been, that are what we call disconnected or opportunity youth. These are youth that aren't in school and aren't employed. We're talking about half the kids ages 16 to 21, half of those kids in Flint are disconnected. Again, not in school, not at work. I highlighted some stuff that we do in 2 minutes. That's approximately 4,000 kids we're talking about. A significant number of those are recently disconnected because of the pandemic, right? Because they don't learn online, they didn't go home and not learning. They're not going to go back to the school that they left either. That's not happening. So they need opportunities, right? They need opportunities to learn life skills, to get their high school diploma, to have work experiences, and also the important background services. I should read the same time. So right now, again, these youth are cut off from all those important agencies and institutions. In the meantime, this is important, in the meantime, there'll be over 500,000 skilled trade jobs available in Michigan in the next 5 years. We need to build a bridge, right, to these 4,000 kids to get crossed over to all these great jobs that are in the there's currently no one system in place to address this issue, right?
Your time is up. If you would like, I want to remind everyone that we do have paper copy surveys. If you want to give input through the survey, we have paper copies, and there you can also have an option of online submitting your content.
Can I just finish with one sentence?
One sentence. I want to get to everyone.
Engagement center near at the Sylvester Bruin Power Village, where any one of those 4,000 kids can come and get reconnected with education, work experience, wraparound service.
That's about 3 sentences. This mic goes different when I walk, so at the top.
Okay. Hello. I am. This question is for Ernst & Young. I'm trying to find out if there will be a priority criteria placed on organizations such as mine delivering supportive housing, because we address several issues. We rehab homes, which addresses blight. We house homeless individual, which addresses the homeless population in Flint. We also provide chore care services for the physically disabled, which we have essential workers. Will there be number criteria placed on organizations that apply, that address several issues in the community?
Working? No.
You got the background.
Sorry. So, EY isn't setting a scoring process for the submissions to input. That's the city and city council that will be deciding the prioritization. So, but through the process that we're going to put in place through these input sessions, through the applications for the programs and so forth, what we're trying to do is raise the priorities so that the mayor and his team, as well as city council, can have them all on kind of an equal information level to make those decisions. So we're not putting in place, EY is not prioritizing those. But through the process of application, that type of information will be brought forward, so will be considered as part of their overall assessment.
Next question is over here.
I would like to know, why isn't the compliance firm not here that I was at the council meeting today?
The council meeting today, you said?
The compliance firm that was at the council meeting, why aren't they here today?
Why are they not here? That's him right
That's
there.
me.
Okay.
That's us.
Hi, my name is Lisa Sanchez Metropolis.
Good evening, Clay. I'm Boris Fernando Porras Rios. We are program managers for Tech Support, an organization built to honor tech, a Flintstone and Flint muralist, As you guys drive into downtown, you guys will usually see the Welcome to Flint sign with its mural that Crystal Cook painted back there. And so, that's his face. And so, Tex Corner's mission statement is to inform, inspire, and educate local youth and adults through the power of creativity in the arts beautification projects and real-world training for our future generations.
And we are in the process right now of partnering with SBEV on their after-school mentoring program and leadership academy. They are also on board to provide us fiscal sponsorship. We are here tonight to represent the often underrepresented Latinx community within the city, within Genesee County, and to suggest that funds be used to help our program and programs on the east side of the community that are enriching our youth and neighbors.
We are currently in a business relationship with the proprietor of 2002 Lewis Street, right across the street from the Landis and Technology Community Center. And we will be seeking funding for that building to implement text-oriented creative education programs, and we will also be implementing a transition to adulthood program where older youth learn critical life skills that will make them successful for their adult life.
The transition to adulthood program will be based around unstable housing and homelessness issues, lack of job training, justice system involvement, and lack of social connections. The transition to adulthood program, a paradigm will provide a tailored approach for teens and young adults ages 17 to 22 to develop self-esteem and self-care efficacy with skills that equip them to manage relationships in multiple contexts, experiences of dynamic, culturally competent and local leaders and entrepreneurs within the community will provide that support to us. Thank you.
I got one more up here.
Hello, I'm Luke Zelli, the president of the Disability Network here in Flint. I've got Jessica and Gina from our office here. And I'll do three quick things. One, I want to say thank you. You have a priority of equality and inclusion. You have interpreters here. So you are living that. Microphones that work, printed materials are other ways to accommodate folks. So as you continue to do these meetings, please continue to make them accessible to everybody in the community. Flint has a large population of folks with disabilities. Michigan School for the Deaf, retirees, and we have an unprecedented number now because of the water crisis and because of the pandemic. So what I'd like to ask Brian and Rob or the folks to consider, if you're putting out these applications, to put a priority around equity and accessibility. So if there's a new playground being put in, that it's accessible for students with disabilities. If there's new housing coming in, that those are accessible. This is a once-in-a-lifetime funds. We don't want more barriers. We want barriers removed. So in that application, if you can encourage disability organizations to be reached out to, or people with disabilities to be included, that'll go a long way towards living up to that promise of equity. And then my last statement is the Disability Network, we are having a huge number of calls from people with disabilities, businesses, families, schools, trying to figure out how to accommodate. We are outgrowing our facilities, and you're going to hear a lot of people asking for requests. We want our building, new building, in partnership with MTA and the Mott Foundation, to be an accessible building for all to be able to see. So we'll look forward to working with you on that. And I see Quincy up there. An MTA board, we need to make sure we have public transit. I know their ridership is going down, and we need to support MTA.
Exactly. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Hello, my name is George Bowden, and I'm here representing a couple of youth groups for at-risk and not at-risk youth, and also scholarship programs. And my question for you is, will there be workshops where we can come into it like they did at the master plan, where each category, where someone's interested in a category, a subcategory, will there be workshops available that we can hone in and focus in to get the most bang for our buck, so to speak?
Yes, once we go through the selection process, we will be soliciting those people that apply in the areas of the categories to be able to make sure that we can put supporting dollars, multiplying dollars, if your program that you're trying to support through these American Rescue Plan dollars, if there's additional funding that could be lent to that particular project from, could be HUD dollars, it could be recast dollars, it could be other dollars that we're seeking out. But we definitely want to show you and help you and provide a level of a concierge service to be able to help guide you to sustainability for your particular program or your request. So the answer in short, yes, there will be some follow-up to be able to help assist you as we move forward.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Willie Buford. And as far as the dollars go, I just want to advocate to the city council and to the mayor and his team that we prioritize our youth. We're hearing a lot about that tonight. We know that idle time is the devil's playground, and these kids are out here having their fill at it. So when we come to making those decisions, let's prioritize our future.
So any other hands come?
This opportunity for us. My name is Leo Robinson. I'm a pastor at Good Church, a new church down here, about a mile and a half down the street. But I also am here representing Good Laundry, which will be opening up at the end of April, early May, which is a nonprofit laundromat. And so that's my reason of being here, is that we are opening up because of the barrier of not having access to clean clothing. And so that's why we're here, and that's what we're pushing for, because that everybody in here has clothing on, and we don't often look at that. We look at poverty as just hitting everyone as far as the belly, but we don't look at the exterior. Hygiene poverty is a big deal, and we have individuals that's missing school and missing work because they don't have access to clean clothes. And right here in this area, the 48505 zip code, where majority of the people in this area depend on public transportation, they have to go at least 4 miles to the nearest laundromat. And can you imagine getting on the MTA with dirty underwear and dirty bags of clothes just to do 3 hours of laundry? So we're opening up a laundromat right here on the north side of Flint, right on Selby and Carpenter, right here on 475, hoping that once that gets going, we'll be able to open up into a larger space. So my prayer is that that is on the priority list, is access to clean clothes, and that because it impacts not just young people, but it impacts the entire household, from adults to children as well. So thank you all.
Thank you. Do we have any come on, I'm moving.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is James Wardrow, and I'm president of the St. John Street Historical Committee. We as a committee are dedicated to, well, first of all, I'd like to say, how many of you people here presently know anything about St. John Street? See, not very many. The purpose of our committee is to commemorate and memorialize the St. John Street community. The St. John Street community was a community of black residents relegated to that area because we couldn't live anywhere else. And I'm a product of St. John Street community. The mayor has graciously made his planning and development department available to us. We have been working with them with the backing of Councilman Quincy Murphy as well. We have identified a property that we would love to develop as a memorial park. And we're looking for all the funding we can get because we have big plans. There's a lot of history in the St. John Street community, and we've gathered a lot, and we'd like to provide that to the public. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Ken Lemons, and I represent Crossover Outreach.
We are a community center with 30 years of history of uplifting this community. We do that first by providing food, clothes, hygiene products, cleaning products, youth programs, and family programs. Even more importantly, we build meaningful relationships with people to help them truly cross over to a better life. We do that by partnering with over 100 referring agencies. But to identify the needs that people have, we first have to build relationships with them. And although you may hear in my voice that I'm not from here, I have a little bit of a southern twang, and I say I might not be from Flint, but I come from struggle. And the only thing harder than struggle itself is getting out of it. And to do that, you have to build trust and you have to have connection. And that's what we do at Crossover Outreach. We are a healthy, sustainable organization with over 30 years of making a difference in this community. And our greatest need is a new building. We have raised $1.8 million. We need $650,000 more to fully fund the project. And we would ask that a portion of these funds be used to help make this vision that we have a reality, to continue uplifting this community and loving on hurting people.
Thank you.
Yeah, I remember a question. I was just trying to wait to make sure everybody had the space to be able to have a dialogue, because I'm listening intently into this room. The purpose of these meetings, just so you guys can understand, is to bring clarity to confusion. When we see these dollars, $94.7 million coming to the city of Flint, we see these things and then we get excited about these one-time dollars. But just know that these dollars are on one side, and then we still have our city budget that these dollars cannot help us with. We're still facing a structural deficit on one side, so we're not out of the woods as it relates to finances. It's been a frustrating time for us all. A lot of questions are out here, and we want to make sure we fulfill every one of your questions with a good answer, absence, misunderstanding of some things. To answer your question about these dollars, $94.7 million was allocated to the city of Flint for the Arpa dollars. Genesee County was allocated $77 million. These 94.7 is the city of Flint. $47 million of which has already arrived. We're waiting the arrival of the other 47. Now, there's many mechanisms to make these dollars work and go out into the public. Public input, priority, structure. And why is making sure we do that? And then once we see your priorities, we will operate with a level of triage level, making sure that we get these dollars immediately to the areas of need. Then we put them in front of council. Councils do their due diligence in making sure the appropriation process is given. And then we still have a responsibility once either one of these groups is given the dollars, there still is a compliancy piece that we have to fulfill for the federal government. Now, the school district, $114 million, county, $77 million, the city of Flint, $94.7 million, transformational dollars, one-time dollars, but we definitely have to come together with a level of structure, and we will do that. We will make sure we attract our $94.7 million from birth to expiration. But we have to do so by working together and making sure we understand each other, and that's why these series of meetings are happening. And so we're hearing everything that you're saying, and there are other dollars available. $46 billion of competitive dollars are still out here in the world that NY is going to seek out. Other infrastructure dollars for bricks. Doesn't have to be from the 94, but other dollars can come available for that. Infrastructure dollars. 94.7 one-time dollars. There's other dollars available for other programming, and we want to make sure we give the concierge service to direct those programming organizations to the necessary resources in which they need to receive. All right, Melissa.
Mary Neely, you're not answering the question. I asked how. If the city residents are going to be able to vote on these decisions, not the city council, all right? Because we know the city council, they represent us. So we should be able to have an input of the dollars, how the dollars going to be spent. Because because we know that they have a lot of issues, that they don't know how to collaborate and make great decisions. All right? So we need to have the city residents be able to make decisions on these dollars. All right? We don't need people outside the city of Flint coming in and making decisions on these dollars. And if you don't think number one priority is the must of getting rid of all these dilapidated homes, number one. That should be the number one thing to clean up our city. Make it look good again. Because when our children get out, come out their homes, they're looking at the abandoned houses, dilapidated homes. That should even be. All right? There should be dollars to bring all those houses to the ground. Okay? Number one. And trees. Health and the safety. These trees are seriously hazardous. That should be the number two thing they should put on the roster to get rid of these bad, rotten trees that have been up for over 100 years, that can kill somebody. Coming down Atherton Road is very unsafe. Going down 2nd Street is very unsafe. Going down Side Street is very unsafe. Okay? So let's get to the real input of where these dollars should be placed. I don't have any problem with people having programs and want money for programs. That's not a must. I don't care what nobody think about it. That's not a must. A must is cleaning up our city of Flint. That's a must. Okay? I know y'all want dollars for y'all programs, but that has to wait.
So I want to make sure that I recap. It sounds like we're talking about blight as a priority and public safety, the health and well-being of our community as the number one priorities. And based on your input, which is very good, I want to remind everyone that we do have some 5 basic categories right now. And based on what you were saying, one of those categories fits in what you're talking about as being a priority. Economic development and blight elimination, safety, and crime prevention. Would everyone else like? Okay. Yeah, it's the orange and also the gray. And just so you all know, as we go through, I'm going to pass some of these out. As we go through these sessions, we are also going to make sure that there is a website that gives updates on all of this stuff as we move forward so that you constantly have the latest information on how input sessions are going. Did we have any other comments? I want to keep going. I am doing a time check. We are at 7 o'clock.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. So I just want to comment, when we began to talk about the dilapidated, there you go. All right. So I just want to comment when we start talking about the dilapidated land bank houses. So one thing that the mayor did mention was the land bank, not the land bank funds, but the county funds that they have on behalf of Flint. So they have not been earmarked for Flint, but Flint is the largest city in Genesee County. And so the county would not have received as much funds as they've received if it was not for Flint. So we are working with our with the land bank so we can leverage those funds for Flint. So I admonish you all to reach out to your county commissioner. So you have a county commissioner. So if you want those funds leveraged on behalf of Flint, so we can attack those things such as the blighted houses within our county, which is in Flint, please reach out to your commissioner. There are multiple levels to this, and we need for you all to engage in all of them. So please, I encourage you, reach out to your county commissioner and tell them that we need those monies here in Flint and to support the proposals brought to them by the land bank, so we can work together to get rid of these houses.
Does the county have the same categories?
The question is, does the county have the same categories?
Yeah,
same spending categories.
No, the county has slightly different, but they.
I'm sorry, Mary. Before you get started, I want to remind you we are at 7:15. We are at 7. Okay, we are at 7:15, and so we really have about 10 minutes. So if everybody could be concise, so we can accommodate all comments and questions.
She was really talking to me, guys.
Absolutely.
So the county has slightly different categories, but many of them mirror what we're looking at because They're all input from the public, right? These are the categories in which the public has set the priorities on, and we're just making a final sweep. And I've heard great things, especially about the disability network, access to, different opportunities inside the city. But the counties you have to go to the county website to take a look at their priorities.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, I'm Calvin Martin. I am the executive director of a program called Destiny Power Center. On April 23rd, we're having a mental health summit here in the city of Flint. I know a lot of times we're talking about all the things that are going on, but we fail to address the mental state of the community. And I know one of the things we need to do is to address that and bring resources to the table so people can get assistance and resources so that they can begin to deal with their own circumstances and then the plight and the blight of the city. So one of the things we're proposing is to offer a facility that houses mental health services for the community that allow the residents free access without judgment, but also sustainable for their families.
Where are you now?
Destiny Power Center right here in Flint. April 23rd, yes, and it's be right here at the Empowerment Center. I'll give you some information after, yes.
Also, I want to let everyone know that we do have 2 more of these input sessions. I have the flyers available here. If you would like to take a flyer, I have those available. Thank you so much for helping me out. And again, we're at 7:17. We have a few more comments in the back. But your question was about would the money be spent for Flint, correct? The vote.
As a councilman, I can answer that for you. We have no plans on putting this out for vote. What we are doing is the city council have 4 input sessions. The mayor is having 4 input sessions. The residents voted for the council. We got 9 city councilmen who represent the people. So we are the vote. If you have some questions or some concerns, you should reach out to your city councilman, just like anybody in the 3rd ward or the 2nd ward. If y'all want some things done and y'all want to see something, please reach out to us or reach out to the mayor. But no, I am not interested, and I won't be supporting putting out some funding to go have people vote. Absolutely not.
We are at 7:18. I have time for 2 more, just 2 more.
Good evening. I'm Dante Lott. I represent the 5 zip code, Cecil Drive, and the projects and all that. So I got a good relationship with the mayor and Quincy Murphy. He's doing a great job as councilman. And I represent Sisters Supporting Sisters. I'm a vice president of that group, and I know we got a different walks of life here, and we all about networking and getting resources to. But we got a Facebook group that has 23,000 ladies in it. I'm the vice president, she's the president. So a lot of resources, ladies be coming to us and be needing things, and we just want to gain a big list of resources that we can offer to them and make a bridge. So anybody here that has resources for different things, and because we all about helping and networking, we do a lot of stuff for the community. We done a Thanksgiving dinner at Burston, fed like 300 people, and World Homeless Day, and school supply giveaways. So we do a lot of stuff for the community, kids and everything. So we just all about partnerships and getting resources to help people in our group and in the city. And we have a park that we adopted over in our area by the projects in Cecil Drive, River West Park. So we're doing things in that park also. So anybody here with resources and anything we can do to help, to come together to help somebody, we're all about that. Because there's a lot of resources that we don't know about, that we would want to know about, that we can offer to our people that ask us.
Thank you.
These sessions will be done in a couple of weeks. How are we going to go about with the next session? How's that going to play out? What's the protocol?
Oh, he's talking about on the screen behind you, what's next? The second bullet talks about process community input, and he wants more information on what that looks like.
Who's involved with that?
Who's involved with process community input?
Processing.
That's where we will process all the information from the surveys, from the notes taken here, notes taken at council meetings, to try to update, the funding priorities to the best, to make sure we're getting everything you're saying. So, this is the draft plan, but now it's time for us to make sure we didn't miss anything.
And I want to remind everyone that if you receive this flyer, it's two-sided. On the back of it, it does have all the different ways that you can still give input with an email address, a mailing in, a phone number, and then also using the City of Flint homepage and the input survey on the homepage. Time check, we are at 7:21.
Yeah, but just remind everyone that this is going to be online as well, that you can be able to access this information to be able to put your input. Just to make sure you're clear on the answer to the question, it's about taking all the information that we collected from all the sessions, council included, all of ours, processing that information to update the priority list that we already currently have to see if we missed anything, and then we will be going forward with that. But that's processing all the data that we've collected from you all.
You said county, you're also including the school district?
I said council.
Oh, sorry.
Okay. So with that, does anyone have I could do one more. Are we good? Everyone's good? What?
I want to know about the water. The pods that we no longer have only 4 in Flint. And I was told that the water that we do have, that people can go to and get, will be closing soon. Is that true?
I'm unsure about your question, what you're asking me.
Okay, so we have water, but on this side of town is right there on Ballinger, just at Flushing the Pod. So I'm understanding, is that my understanding that the pods that we do, the water that is being brought into Flint, that it will no longer be? Is that true? And what are we going to do?
Well, each one
about the help centers. Yeah, the help centers.
Each one of the help centers are independent of the city. They're operated by their own entity. If you're talking about Greater Holy Temple, Bethel, or the other one, those are independent entities outside of the city. They receive no city support, very little city support, but they're outside of the city operations, and so you have to petition them with that particular question.
Okay. Well, I want to thank everyone. We have a question? I'm sorry.
Good evening. My name is Kurt Harrison. I am the creator of the Think Before You Act Positive Behavior Support Program. It's a school-based program that operated right here in Flint. And one of the things that I want to do right now is, even though I want to work with the youth, but I think that we have a problem here in the Flint area. I think all of us are tired. And I think everybody here is representing a cause that they have, and each and every one of them are important. And what I want to do is ask the council and the mayor to get involved with me to run billboards through the community that says, think before you act. I'm hoping that we can get somebody to start thinking a little bit before they act, because there's too much violence and different things that's going on in the community. That's my way of getting involved with this community. Because every time I hear the news or look at the news and hear more crime going on, I'm not saying that the message, think before you act, is the answer, but I'm saying that it is a link in the chains that I think that can help. Because people who, even us, all of us in here, we have to think before we do something, or we're going to find ourselves in trouble. So I've created T-shirts, I've created all types of things, I've written books on it, think before you act. I mean, because it's like, I had a terrible childhood. I did everything wrong. And so being able to come on the other side of that, I heard someone talk about, these young men here talk about crossover. I crossed over. I used to couldn't read, write, or spell, but I wrote 21 workbooks and teacher's manuals today. So if you want to cross over, I have some tools that can help you cross over. I need help from the city council, from the mayor, from some of these dollars to help the problem here in Flint, and to partner with some of you guys here too as well. But think before you act is something that I think that needs to be in this community, spread all over everywhere, that we can be able to come together and make a difference.
And with that, we will end this session. Again, I do have hard copies of the online survey available. If you do want a hard copy, you will have to turn it in by mail. The flyer that you have has the options to turn this in. If you do have other questions or you need me to get your information because you did have some services complaints, and I did mention that I would stay after and take your information and help you with that, you can come see me. But I have those surveys. I want to thank everyone. I want to thank our Facebook audience and the mayor and the panel. And we will end this session right now. Thank you very much, Mayor. You can put down your microphone.
Not before I want to thank everybody for coming out with your input, because it's definitely important for us all to get on the same page with this good information. On behalf of myself and the city, and also of Councilman Murphy and Councilwoman Liddell Lewis, we thank you for coming out. I'll be hanging around for a little bit longer period of time if you had additional questions beyond this. Thank you all. See you at the next session. God bless.
Okay.